today we got to play...
Tiletum.
Yeah, he was making fun of me and how I pronounce it, so
well,
I'm not
100% sure. I'm just going by what we found on the internet.
I think y'all should just comment that he's saying it wrong.
I would
just because
I want to call it Tiletum.
He's being ornery. All right, but let's get back to this particular game. But before we do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing, and that's what we do here at
And we can pronounce subscribe.
Okay, so Randy, tell us more about this game. I know it's part of the T series.
It is.
And it is by the same designer.
Because it starts with a T.
Yeah, and it's done by the same designer as one of my favorite board games.
Designers. Both the designers from Zolkin were responsible for this game. So, Tiletum is a 2022 release. It's got a Board Game Geek rating of 8.0, a Board Game Geek rank of 2182. It's a 1 to 4 player game, 60 to 100 minutes in length. We played a lot longer than that. Age 14 and up. Design is Simone Luciani and Danielle Tassini, as we mentioned, the people who designed Zolkin. Art is by Giorgio De Michel and Zbigniew Ungelter. Published by Board and Dice Games. Has an MSRP of $60. Card House has it the cheapest that I saw for $40.99. Miniature Market has for $42. But it's definitely out and available. I think it released last week during Thanksgiving, prelude to Thanksgiving. I got it right before Thanksgiving.
Okay. All right. So now Heather had a really good question. What is the T series? So some of our subscribers might not know what the T series is. So there is a series of game by...
I think most of them are published by Board and Dice, if not all.
Yes, and so basically they are
actually Zolkin defeats that argument. It's by Rio Grande and by CGE.
So basically there are games that start with the letter T from a specific designer a series of designers that go towards the medium to hard level games. So very high strategy, complex resource management.
Teotihuacan.
Yes.
There's Terracotta Army.
Mm-hmm.
There's
so they're geographically based. I like that.
Not all of them. I mean,
well, everything you've said so far.
Well, I guess Tiletum is also.
But like Zolkin is like more
the Mayans, but it's not necessarily
geography.
But
that's a place.
Okay.
And it's based on the history of that place.
Yeah, it's definitely historic.
But overall, that's what the T series is. This is a really set of really great games that...
Oh, except Trismegistus. That one is also part of the T series, but is not geographic. That's like wizards and mystical stuff.
So, anyway.
Oh, no.
So that's what we refer to when we talk about the T series. So, let's talk about quality of components for Tiletum. So this has unique shade of dice there. I mean, they're pretty standard, but they're unique colors. So I thought that was really great. You have these wonderful wooden pillars. Yeah. You've got little wooden houses, and they're not your standard houses because they actually have these ridges, and they're a little bit taller than what you would see your standard houses in like Catan and things.
It has a really nice oversized board that has a linen finish on it.
Yes, correct. And all of the cardboard chits have linen finish. Yes.
Custom meeples for the architects that look like the
wagon.
Illuminati, or no, it's not the Illuminati, the Freemasons.
Freemasons.
And then little covered wagons.
Yeah, I think the biggest letdown is the resources.
Yeah, the resources, they got just cardboard. The good news, though, is our Stonemaier resources can replace every one of them.
Exactly, which we'll be doing next game.
Even the wool?
Yep. Well, actually, that one definitely. The food's the only questionable one.
No, there's food ones.
We've got lots of food substitutes, but they're not going to look like a soup bowl.
I mean, we can make it work.
Yeah.
We could probably just do the grain bag. So overall, though, I think, and the other piece of it that I think is this is not on a...
Yeah, it would be nice. Actually, it would be nice as if they had that magnetic, because some of the ones that we've got seen where you can just like toss it on and it'll stick by itself because it's got a magnet built into the board.
Okay, listen, really cool. I'm not talking about crazy. I'm just talking about attached, because there were a couple of times that we were like,
Yeah, but if it's attached, then you can't fold the board flat.
Yeah. The
Well, no, but then you remove
I
it.
never heard anybody go wee the whole time we played this game.
You're doing it wrong. All right. So that was kind of weird, but overall, I think they actually did a pretty decent job on quality. I'm willing to give this. The resources bug me. I'll probably give it an 8 with the caveat of I'm going to get my Stonemaier pieces out.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking?
I'd probably give it a 7.5, and the only reason I don't give it an 8 is because when I punched it out of the punch boards, it wasn't cut smoothly. So I have one of the player boards on the back, a little tear where the piece came off when I was punching it, and that was kind of annoying. But apart from that, I mean, they have a nice linen finish on them, on all the tiles, all the cardboard. You know, I think I would have given it an 8 otherwise, but it's probably my luck as usual getting a bad cut because I got a punch board that didn't cut all the way through.
That's your story.
I like the 8 number.
8 number. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the actual theme. So obviously that this is, I don't know, someplace, but
someplace it's set in Europe.
It's in Belgium.
Yeah. Well, Belgium is part of it. I mean, you're going to Frankfurt, to Strasbourg.
I mean, the title
Praga.
city is in Belgium.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you are. I don't want to say you're a merchant. What are you in? Like not even noble houses because you're creating.
There are
noble
merchants because that's what you're traveling. The carriages
right,
are.
but there's
And
also
there's
architects. So I don't know you as the individual what you are to make all of this happen because you're not a noble house because you're creating the houses.
Here's the backstory.
You're the king.
In Tiletum, you and your fellow players take on the roles of rich merchants traveling throughout Europe. See, merchants.
Oh, we are rich merchants.
From the city of Tiletum, modern day Tilet. I can't even pronounce that.
How do
The
you spell that
modern version. Tielt. Belgium. To Venice during the days of early Renaissance. You will travel to various cities to acquire trade contracts for wool and iron and establish trade houses. Trade houses, not trade houses. Can't pronounce trade now. You must collect the required resources to fulfill contracts, invest in the construction of monumental cathedrals, gain in the favor of noble families, and participate in important fairs where your main business occurs. You will also use the services of notable people who will be welcomed into your houses. You will thus gain prestige that will make you the most famous merchant in early Renaissance.
So you are merchants.
Yes.
I will say the artwork is fantastic. I actually really enjoyed the artwork. I thought there was a lot of details. Like even these flags here, they look like they're floating through.
This is Il Duomo. These are actually images of real cathedrals.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which, that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, so I think they did really well on the theme. I didn't know what I was, but I know I was doing a lot of impressive things throughout the game. I was trying to build cathedrals. I was trying to establish some type of merchant route. And so, I thought there was a lot going on, but I think it was relative to theme. It made sense, right? I knew I was something powerful trying to move all my pieces to obviously make the best choices and get the most victory points. I really liked the theme, and I think the art was spot on. Is it something very unique beyond a merchant kind of game? Not really, so I'm going to give it an 8. I think they did a fine job. All the mechanics make sense for the theme. All the mechanics make sense for that kind of theme, and the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm at an 8. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I don't think it's heavy in theme. You're doing a bunch of actions, moving around a board, which makes sense from a merchant's perspective, but I don't think it's that heavy in it. These are just locations. Yes, it's in Europe because the names are European cities, but it could have been anywhere. It's a nice little touch that they put in cathedrals that Heather's able to recognize belong to cities. To me, they're just buildings. There's some nice attributes. But the
artwork
there.
Is great.
I don't disagree. I think the artwork is amazing. I'm going to give 7.5 just because I don't think there's anything that screams the theme in the game apart from this having really nice artwork and the fact that you have a board with locations and you're moving around. It makes sense in any merchant game.
Yeah. All right. What are you thinking, Heather?
I'm annoyed that the map is not to scale, but I understand you can't really
Well,
make a map
You
to
wanted
scale.
to build one that was the size of Europe?
No, I just would like it if it were shaped a little bit more like Europe.
That's not the scale. That's to proper proportions or for proper shape. I don't know, but it's not scale.
Someone's being a little snickety this morning.
I'm just saying.
Right,
I don't want to
okay.
have a game that's the size of Europe in my home. I don't think I could handle it.
All right.
I like it except for that one thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm already pretty close with some of my board games, so.
Okay, whatever. All right. So, I mean, but giving it a score, where are you at on score for it?
Oh, I think it deserves higher than an 8 because, like, you could tell what some of these groups of people were, or you could tell what the different cathedrals were. I think I give it a 9.
Okay.
I do. I think it really plays into the theme. You have to know a little bit about history for it to work. But then you know.
Well, Randy doesn't know much about history.
But then you know that the map is squashed.
I mean,
I was good to know this was Europe.
Okay.
It had London on it, so that helped.
Oh my gosh, Randy Wilson.
We love you anyway, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, let's move on and let's talk about the actual rulebook. Now, this is where we had some interesting results.
So first of all,
due to rule reading,
there's 2 rule books. There's one for the solo play. We don't play solo, so we're not going to go into that one. But just to let you know, it is 16 pages in length, so it's a pretty thorough single player experience. As far as the main rule book is actually fairly intimidating because it's 32 pages in length. But there's a nice cover and a nice back on it, which is something you don't see on a lot of rule books. So 2 pages of that is occupied just by art. It's got a nice, the background I just read to you is on the first cover page. They've got one of the scanny things to let you kind of see. It looks like it gives you like updated rules. You can scan it, so that might have actually helped if we noticed that was there. Then you've got the components. That they have they have actually multiple pages, 3 pages worth of components and just pictures and showing you what they are. I like that. They have the setup. The setup is fairly straightforward walking through it. There really wasn't much confusion in the setup. It was when we started getting into the actual gameplay and the rules, the way they laid it out. They went through and talked about all the phases of the game. Then they broke it into what are the actions in detail that you take, which normally I don't mind that setup, but then there were pieces of the actions that they had in more detail later on that were separate. So when we were reading, it's like, okay, like for example, the crests. It didn't mention when we were talking about crests early in the action phases that the crests, you could only have 1 per family. You couldn't have multiple of the same crest on your board. But then when you actually got to the specifics of a crest, then it was called out in a blue highlighted section telling you can only have 1 of the crests. So when we first were reading,
I had asked that question earlier in the game.
And you'd asked specifically that question. It's like, well, it doesn't say anything here. But then if you flip back to that section, sure enough, there it is. It's like the fact that they kind of subdivided everything was really the problem. And then we did have one thing that was not clarified in the rules that we had to go to Board Game Geek to get an answer for.
What was that?
That was the one about the tokens where you get the bonus tokens when you place them if you could trigger them using the wild, the Joker space, I should say. And the answer was yes, but it wasn't in the rule book. So it was just, there was a few things that were missing. Not a lot.
So we
it wasn't
played
horrible.
A few rounds.
Well, we never really had it impact us. There was one.
You didn't? I thought we did.
There was one where I started to do it, and you all said no, very, very vehemently said no, and I backed off. And then we went back and confirmed that it was, and it just affected 1 space movement. It wasn't a big deal. But yeah, all in all, there was several places where we caught rules after the fact, but nobody had actually been impacted by it, so it didn't really impact our playthrough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and give the rule book, because of all those things, a 7. I think it would have probably been an 8 because the way it's laid out, the way it's highlighted, it was pretty good. It's just they should have put things together, and it just things were kind of hodgepodge in the rule book, and it was confusing because of that. But all in all, most of the detail is all clear in the book. There was very little confusion except for those highlighted things being separated and the fact that there was at least one rule was missing.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to move this so I can actually see the board. We are going to be talking about gameplay. So the gameplay is, so the turn order is down here, and that will eventually be based on this track down here, which is basically the noble influence that you have throughout the game. Now, over the course of time, it can deteriorate just because you haven't committed to new type of favors for the noble houses. But by gaining their favor, you do get a lot of victory points. So it's relevant, which we did not take into consideration. So we kind of talked about that.
I did.
Yeah, well, we don't like you very much. All right. So that's it. So that's based on turn order. So if it's my turn, I'm going to end up picking a dice. But there's a couple of things that I'm going to be looking at when I talk about dice. So first, I got to look at the color of the dice. So each color gives me a different resource, okay? So do I need that resource? Okay, so and the number of pips is also the number of the resource I get. But the problem is, with the more resources I get, the decreased amount of quote-unquote actions that I have to take. All right, so the other thing I have to consider is bonus tiles. Now, if I'm the first one to take an action of that variety, if you will, or of that kind of action, then I will, if I can, sometimes you can't because your board is full, you will get additional bonus tiles. Now, these tiles will allow you to do different things. Some give you actions, some give you resources, some give you an ability. So all those things are or contracts even. So that's where that comes into play.
And you can only store 4 at a time, which is very important because you can't get rid of them once you get them.
Yep, so that's why Randy got stuck. Okay, so now let's go through the action. So the first one I'll talk about is the noble action. Now we again talked about how the noble influences base turn order as well as victory points after the end of each round. There are 4 rounds, so if you manage to get up to the 15 points a round, that's not so shabby, guys. Plus, Randy was really smart in the fact that he went up at that first round and then was able to stay up there, so he was able to get victory points throughout the game by minor adjustments. Now, the next one that we're going to talk about is the actual merchant action. So there's a little things that you could do. So if you're taking the merchant action, you can move your merchant, okay? You can also, oh, that doesn't have a house. Let's go over here. All right, but then I can also lay a house. Now that is a separate action. Oh, I'm orange. All right, so that is a separate action. So each movement space is considered an action. Each drop off is an action. And if sometimes you'll get lucky, you're over here, and there is a tile, picking up a tile is a separate action. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that's everything for the houses. Now, the one thing to mention is that for the houses times the pillars that you have placed on the board at the end of the game are worth victory points. So those matter too. Now, the next action that we're going to talk about is the architect. So the architect is very similar. You have your piece. When you take the action, you can move it, and then you can place a pillar if you have it available. So this is very key. As you complete contracts, some of your pillars will be able to move off the board, and that gives you access to those pillars. So for this example, we'll just say I've already completed one, and then I'll be able to place it here as my architect action. Okay, and then as a free action, I can choose to build a cathedral. So in this case, it takes 3 stone, and I get 5 victory points, and I get to build this cathedral. Now I get a bonus for the first one to do it, and I get 1 victory point for doing that. That changes depending on the different cathedrals. So some give you a bonus of 5, and there's different locations. So the locations depend on the quantity of stone that you need and things like that. So that's what you can do. And again, like I mentioned before, so you get, for the architect, you get the actual buildings for bonus, as well as the pillars times your housing for your victory points. All right, so one of the other actions that you can take is considered the recruitment action or the people action. So basically, you have so many actions to recruit the people, and then you have to place them on your board in different houses. Now, there's a couple of rules around placement. Each house is only available for one particular kind, and you can't duplicate the kind on the board. So, for example, if I have architects in my large house, I cannot put architects in the other 4 houses that I have available to me. Now, once I fill up a house, so for example, in this particular case, I have architects at the 3 level, and that house is completely full. It will then release a house, which is our trading house, which is what I need when I travel around with my merchant group, right? To be able to place those down. So that's actually very relevant. But when I go to place this down, there's a couple of things that I need to do. So to take it, for example, I have to pay 1 of the personnel points. But then I also have to play the actions for the personnel as well to place it here. So in this case, this needs 3. Now, when I place it, there is a special ability or a special or token or different things, resources, actions up here in this corner. When I actually place it in the house, do I get that action? And that can range depending on, again, the variety or the kind of people that are available to us. All right, so that's the recruit action. And the second to last one is the contract. So I kind of talked a little bit about contracts, how that's what you need to open up the pillars. So basically, this is the contract board. Depending on the placement of it is where you get your contracts. So if I have 1 contract action, I could take this. This requires me to have 5 of the same resource. I'm going to put that into my board. Oh, look at that. I have plenty of steel in my repertoire. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to place it here. That will free up a pillar, and I'll have that use that to build that action. So not only do I get the victory points that are on this, what I place, but it allows me to free up these to then get later victory points.
Interestingly, they also include crests in the contracts that are not contracts to fulfill, but you use them later to place underneath your different buildings to give a family crest to that household. And they give you perks based upon where you play them, but they cost some different amounts of food from 2 up to 6.
Right. And not only that, though, but you get an action when you put the crest on, as well as when you complete it, you do get a special bonus. Now, this is something at the beginning of the game I don't think we quite understood, but then when we did, it was super useful. So basically, when you fill out the house completely, add the crest, you then, depending on how the size of the house, you get to do this bonus tile on the action that it's filling. So for example, my architect level 3, I get a +3 to all my architect actions now that the trading house is up and running and fully filled, okay? So anytime I take the architect action, I get additional 3 points. So as you fill up the houses, again, with each individual one, you'll get these plus markers up there, so certain actions are more available. We didn't really get this till round 3 of the game, end of round 2, early of 3.
It was right about the time that we were starting to get some houses filled anyway. It was right on time.
Yeah, it wasn't like there was anybody really getting to take advantage of it at early game.
But I think if we had known, I think we would have, because we would have filled up these earlier houses.
Yes, I think so.
And then we would have moved on. So I do think that is pretty relevant. So there's that. Then the last one is what he mentioned, the Wild, or AKA the Joker. So basically, you get to choose anything on the rondelle to determine what that action will be at the different level. Because like in this particular case, Joker is at a level 3 die, which is actually 4 actions. So basically, hey, you know what? Right now, persons is only, or let's see, merchant's only at a level 2 action. I need a little more merchant, so maybe I'm going to go to my Wild and take that. Now, one thing is to understand that, so sometimes you may not have anything available to you that you really like. You can modify the dice, but it is pretty expensive. It costs 2 gold coins to move it, to change the die 1 number. So if you're 3, you're going to go to a 4. And if you wanted to do it again, you can continue, but you have to have the gold to do that. Typically, we did not see that happen more than just the 2 jumps. Anything more than that, I don't think it wasn't very cost effective.
Yeah.
Now, you don't get, so when you're changing the die, after you're done changing the die, that is when you trigger the actions of the resources and things like that. Not just the resources and then trigger the action. Then the other thing is like he mentioned, if the wild is triggered and you have a bonus for whatever action it is, then you get that bonus. So that is basically the actions that you can take during the round. You get 3 actions per round. Now, at the end of the round, there's a couple of things that happen. So you end up scoring down here for your level of...
it's the king track.
Yeah, the king track, or how much noble influence that you have. Then you also possibly can score the end of round victory points. But this can be a little tricky, because I didn't get to do all of them, is that you have to be at the different fairs that are available to you, and they are across the map. And so you have to make sure that you either have a house or that your caravan is actively there to take part. So that is actually very, very relevant, because there was one time I didn't and one I almost didn't. I had to really, make things happen to make sure I arrived in time to get that victory points.
You definitely
and it is
had to
quite
be creative and working out your actions to make sure that you could get your trailer there.
Yeah, this is a lot of victory points. Some of this stuff ended up, like, it was 8 for this one, so it ended up pretty, it was worth a lot of victory points. So it kind of mattered, specifically. Yeah.
I like this because it helped me figure out what to focus on each round.
Well,
Yes.
I like it because, first
Not
of all,
all games do that.
the only one that's hard fixed is Tiletum. And other than that, everything is completely randomly shuffled. There is a point that's hard fixed on the board, but there's a modifier for it on each one. And you don't know what the bonus is going to be for, or the modifier, or the cities is going to be, because they're all random. So you reset this board, it's going to be a different feel every time you play.
Yes, I do like that, and I can greatly appreciate it. So at first, the first feel of this game did not feel like your other T-Series games for me. I don't know why. But as we started playing it, realizing the strategy behind it, I was like, oh, because I was like, player of Zulkin, like, this doesn't seem... But as we started playing and seeing all the moving pieces, it was like, okay, this is where that strategy is at.
Well, it's totally different mechanics. I mean...
No, but what I'm talking about is the feel, because with Zulkin, you have so many moving pieces, so many ways to score, and trying to make sure you fit all of that right. At the initial get-go of this one, I didn't see how everything connected. Mm-hmm. But as we played through, it was like, okay, this is where the strategy at. This is the, game designer that I love and know so well. This has a lot of, you like it because it's the point salad. I like it because it's integral, and I think there's a lot of strategy to be had here. I really, really liked it a lot, and I'm excited to play it again now that I actually know the rules, Yeah,
I mean, if I had to compare it to any of them, I think it most closely relates to Trismegistus because of the dice drafting and the different things, but it still feels totally unique. It feels completely different.
No, it feels unique, but at the beginning, when I didn't see all the moving pieces, I did not give the appreciation that it should. But now, like later in the course of the game, so what I think is the benefit is, though, it might be a little bit easier to teach because you don't see the strategy till the end of the game, and that helps it carry through some more audiences being able to, but the rules needed to be there too. So I think there's kind of a mix there. I think teaching somebody will be a lot more easier than, say,
This one, I mean, all the games, as you mentioned, are medium to heavy. I'd say this one, the only part that's heavy is the fact that there's so many rules, little nuances to the rules. The basics of them are very simple. You're drafting a die, you get the perk of the resources, you get to take the number of actions, and that's it. But there's a lot of ways you can combine those actions, and you can get some nice chaining because you take the action, you get the bonus token lets you trigger something else.
Yes.
I managed to get some really good rounds where I got a lot of points. I think Heather got to do that a couple times. So there's you can really dramatically increase your score in one turn. And I like that. I like the fact that you can just shoot up quickly.
If you hadn't got that 6-action king in the beginning, you wouldn't have won this game.
Yeah, that really...
Because you only beat me by 3.
You guys left it for me, though. You left both of them there.
We didn't know what the heck we were doing at that point in time. I feel like you...
Alan read the rules. I was just observing.
I tell you what.
I just saw an opportunity.
I zoned out during the reading of the rules. I was like, just tell me how to
anytime
play.
that every die is going to cause me to move backward on a track, I always want to make sure I get as far up to the other side as I can, so I didn't have to deal with it. So that helped a lot for me.
Yeah.
But the fact is you came within 3 points, taking a totally different strategy than I did. And I like that when you can score multiple, lots of ways to score, and you still can come out in a competitive manner.
I only got one of my pillars out.
Yeah. So, but you gained other benefits instead. I mean, the thing is if you don't do this, you're going to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's always the way it is with these kind of games.
Yeah.
You can't
It
do
gets
everything.
hard it gets challenging if two people are trying to do the same strategy. But there's enough strategies on this board that you don't have to do the same thing.
And you're at the mercy of the dice, what comes up for a round.
The dice and the stack of the contracts and the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I really appreciate about this game. I'm really excited to play it again multiple times to see how much I love this. And it's been a while since I've really loved a game like this, the strategy-wise, so I'm super excited that we did get to play this. Because there'll be something new that I will often ask for now. All right, let's talk about the actual rating now. Heather, what are you thinking? What's your rating?
I loved this game. It's very rare that I figure out this is what I should be focusing on this early in a game. So I think it's a 9.
9? Okay, Randy, what are you thinking?
This year there have been a lot of good games, and it's going to be, when we do our top 10 video for the games that we played this year, it's going to be a tough decisions, because there's a lot of ones that I think are contenders for top game. I'm going to put this up there for now. After a few plays, it may change, but I think this is probably a 9 at least for me. I think it might go up, but it could also go down after I start playing if I feel like there's a lot of repetition. But because of the fact that there's
I don't think
it's not. I don't think it's going to repeat.
I think
it's going to feel unique because of the fact that so many things change on you. You still have to figure out what's the best strategy, but I don't think it's always going to be the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm with you guys. I'm at least a 9. I feel like with a couple more playthroughs, this could definitely get in my top 5. Easy peasy. Like, I think that this has great potential. I'm super excited to play it a little more. Super happy with this game.
Anytime you're just wishing for one more action, just one more action. I just need. I can either do this or I can do that. Now I couldn't do either one. I had to do something else completely. That just is a whole different level of thinking and being engaged with it. And honestly, when we first started this game, I thought I'm going to lose this game and I'm not going to care, because I was tired when we first started playing. But not very long into it, I was like, this is fun. I was like, babe, I like this game.
Yeah.
Which is code for Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming, and you may want to have to put this on your list.
This was fun.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye.